Nothing tastes better than your own homegrown veggies. And Joshua from Greengate says it's not that hard to actually grow them yourself. I've never had much luck, but you've got tips.
Right, so if you do struggle with seeds, that's all right. We've got you covered. There are lots of people that grow started plants that you can just simply take something already ready to go into a garden and plant out.
Now, if we are going to plant something like tomatoes, I know a lot of people are growing tomatoes in containers. Is that an easier way to do it?
Right, so it's not necessarily easier, it's whatever suits you. So it doesn't matter the space that you have, if you're in an apartment or if you're on 3 acres. If you want to grow some of your own vegetables, there's a way to do it.
Okay, when you're planting tomatoes, or I guess any of these vegetables, what kind of space do you need to provide for each plant?
So some of that just depends on the plant, and there's even square foot gardening where you start pushing things in. It takes a little bit more care to keep everything healthy. So it really just depends on the plant, but we do have some guides that we can give you as far as how far they need to be spaced out per plant.
All right, you guys know what you're doing at Greengate, and I know you've got some great tips and ideas for anybody who might be interested in starting their own vegetable garden.
Right, so like you had said, tomatoes are really popular, peppers are really popular summertime plants. So one thing is just to try to start out with some calcium in the soil. A lot of times people will struggle with that blossom end rot, and it's just simply a calcium deficiency. So if you put some in to start with, it'll help those plants before they ever get behind on it so that they're always coming out with good looking fruit.
Okay, and is it something that we need to continually add over time, or?
You can. Normally it recommends like after 2 weeks after the initial one, you can put some more in. After that, it's normally good for the season, but just watch it. If it starts to develop, add a little bit more.
Okay, and what do we look for that?
It's actually, I don't know if you can really see on the picture, but it's a discoloring. It's normally at the bottom end of the fruit, kind of brownish, yellowish, and it kind of just completely surrounds the bottom of the fruit. It almost looks like it's rotting out.
All right. A lot of times tomatoes, they get so big, once they start developing the fruit, they fall right on over.
Right, so you can definitely do something like this. There are pre-made cages, things like this. You can also, if you don't have access to something like this, you can't get out, put a stake in the ground and use a piece of twine or something, and as they grow up, tie it off and make a little basket around them as they grow up.
That's fantastic.
So there's a couple different ways you can do it. And some larger plants you may need to support as they get bigger, not just tomatoes.
Okay, something else that you've brought is this great looking herb garden, and you've put all these different herbs just in one pot. I love that.
Yeah, so that's, once again, if you have a small space, if you're in an apartment or you just want to have this near your kitchen, I find that if it's a chore to go get it, you're not as likely to use it, but if you can have it where it's easy and accessible, you're a whole lot more likely to cook with it and use it.
Yeah, and so how often would we need to, kind of cut this back or prune it a little bit?
So ideally, you wouldn't be having to prune it because you're going to be using it, and so you're going to be pruning it as you go. So it's normally fairly simple, and so make sure you're planting stuff that you like, that you'd use. I always recommend grow what you're going to eat. Don't grow something that you're just going to grow for the fun of it. I guess you can, but for vegetables, really focus in on what you're going to use, and it makes it easier.
All right, and we could really just put any herbs all in one pot together. Does it matter?
It does matter. So some plants like to be a little bit drier, some like to be a little bit wetter, so you want to put like your Mediterranean drier herbs together so that you're not overwatering those. Then your basil and cilantro, some things that can take more water, can go in a separate container.
All right, just important to be able to read those labels, see what kind of light and watering that those plants need so that you get some really good thriving plants.
And ask questions.
All right, thank you so much for coming in to show us
Thanks
this
for
today.
having us.
We're ready to grow some veggies. Stay with us, more Midday for you right after the break.